What's going on, LHS community? Welcome to another edition of Holding Court here on the First State Hoops Report YouTube channel. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Chris Stevens. I'm the founding editor of First State Hoops Report and the host, producer, director, editor, whatever you want to call it, of Holding Court, which is where I talk about Delaware high school basketball and all related things every Sunday. And it's a special Sunday because it's Super Bowl Sunday. If you had to make me pick, I'm not an Eagles fan, by the way. The team I used to root for was the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns thing is a long story. I have to tell you that another time. But I gave them up when they signed Deshaun Watson. You know, Buddy was out there, with taking liberties with the massage therapist. And they gave that man $250 million. I was like, yo, we had Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield actually won a playoff game for you guys, but you went with Deshaun Watson. I'm cool. So I don't have an NFL team I root for necessarily, but of course, being in Delaware, being around Eagles fans, I want Eagles fans to be happy. And quite frankly, I'm tired of Patrick Mahomes winning everything all the doggone time. So yes, I am rooting for the Eagles. If you had to make me pick a score, I would say Eagles 28, Chiefs 23. That's what I'm going to go with. I mean, it could be the Eagles could blow them out. The Eagles could win on the last second Jake Elliott field goal, even though Jake Elliott has been struggling as of late. But that's the beauty of sports, man. You never know when it's time until your number is called. But yeah, so it's Super Bowl Sunday. Not going to take up too much of your time because, of course, there's game. People got to go get the food. People got to set up their big TVs, all that good stuff. And I am going to cover St. Mark's versus St. E's over at St. E's this afternoon. So you guys can catch me over there. You know, if you guys have already got your Super Bowl prep done and you want to go check out some high school ball, that's a good game to check out. Also, Sally's is down at Odessa at 3 o'clock later on today if you guys want to go peep that out. So that should be an interesting game. But let's recap the week that was for me. First Tuesday, I went to go see Sal's play Howard at Howard. And I think what surprised me about Howard taking over that game in the fourth quarter, of course, since they lost to William Penn on Saturday, was the composure Howard played with down the stretch. That was absent Saturday against William Penn. We'll talk more about William Penn in a second. But this Howard team, they have the potential to be great. I mean, they have all the talent. And the best part is they only have one senior. Jeremiah, well, it's a big senior because, I mean, Jeremiah Riley's 6'5", 230. He's their biggest dude out there. You know, he's the one who grabs, rebounds, sets the picks, picks up the loose change, puts it back in the bucket. So Howard's probably still going to need to find, someone to pair with Dom next year. So that, to me is still something that kind of sort of sticks out for me. But Howard really showed some composure down the stretch against Sal's. I think what hurt Sal's was Latrell Wright was hurt a little bit. In fact, he didn't play Friday against St. Mark's. I don't know if he's going to play Saturday at Friday against St. Mark's. I don't know if he's going to play Sunday against Odessa later on today. But Sal's, they're an interesting team. They're 5-11, and they have all the bonus points they need for the tournament. They do. So everyone that thought that, they were in trouble, they might actually get a home game in the first round, believe it or not. I mean, I've done the calculations. I may just go ahead and drop the calculations either Tuesday or Wednesday. I haven't decided yet. I may just go ahead and put them up on the website and put them on Instagram and let people, run wild with it, because the important point is when we put together these calculations, because everybody in the media does this, not just myself. We just don't share them with you guys, but we don't share it with the public. But the important thing is that our results are unofficial. The DIA basketball committee has the official results, and they won't meet until either Thursday, February 20th, or Friday, February 21st, either one of the two. And the hard part about putting together these points indexes is, as like I said last week, as much as we get on the case of local coaches and athletic directors here about not updating website for sports, the out-of-state schools are much worse with max preps. Like, there's a school in New York, Bishop Lockwood, and at least 2 Delaware teams have played them on the girls' side, and 1 Delaware team has played them on the boys' side. They still have games where they have not updated from November. And here we are, second week of February. So what are we supposed to do with that? We can only put what's available. So, and we're not we could just call up and say, hey, what's your record? Hey, what's this, what's that? We ain't got time because we're busy doing other stuff, pertaining to our day jobs. So we just have to put, what they have listed. Okay, if they're 2-6 by this time, then 2-6 it is. They're 4-3. Okay, that's a bonus point for somebody. So, but yeah, it's not going to be easy easy calculating this state tournament because there's at least 60 to 70% of the boys teams with at least 10 wins and probably about 55-60% of the girls. How does that happen? There's some out-of-state games being played. Then the local teams are doing well against out-of-state schools, which is cool. But it's just harder for us to get these records right from these out-of-state schools because they don't update their stuff either. But yeah, back to Howard Salesianum. That game I would like to see again. I would like to see Howard William Penn again because Penn jumped out on Howard like gangbusters on Saturday, boy. 17-3 in the first quarter. It was like, whew, what happened here? And then Howard came all the way back. They got back to within a point. They tied it at one point, but they just couldn't climb that mountain. And that's a big win for William Penn with starting three freshmen, having a sophomore big come off of the bench. Gary Lumpkin has himself a potential dynasty. I don't know if they'll win it this year, but you have to put them on a short list of favorites for 26, 27, and 28. If all those guards stay together. If Birdie stays, if Whitaker stays, if Ramirez stays, that's a big three you can build around in your guards. And you give them a post player like an Andy Webb or a Moab Ibn Jabir Johnson, put them all together. That's going to be a tough team to beat. They're a tough team to beat right now. They are a tough team to beat right now. Like this William Penn squad, they are slowly making a case for being added to that list of favorites for the state tournament. But yeah, that was a big win for Penn on Saturday. I don't think it discourages anybody from picking Howard among the favorites, but I will say that Howard has a tendency to kind of sort of go off script. And when they go off script, that's when things start to get a little dicey. They need to stay close to the vest as they possibly can. Or as Hove and Beans used to say on that one song, stick to the script. Y'all know the one. Shout out to the Dynasty album. But yeah, that much anticipated girls basketball championship rematch. Yeah. Boy. Yeah. I mean, I'm at a loss for words because that game was never close. I mean, Ursuline jumped out to a 29-9 lead like 2 minutes into the third quarter, and everybody on press row, we just kind of looking at each other like, where Caravel at? Where the shot? Are the shots going to start going in? Are they going to lock in on defense? They did lock in on defense. They just couldn't make a shot. But the important part about it is that Gigi Banks just established how much better she is than everybody else in the state of Delaware. That's really what it boils down to. It's not about anybody having an off night. It's not about anybody else ratcheting up, though we will talk about how Ursuline's role players really stepped up on Thursday night. But Gigi Banks is in a class all by herself when it comes to Delaware kids. And that's no disrespect to anybody else in this state. We have a lot of talented girls in this state. I mean, we've got girls that are signing Division I scholarships. We've got underclassmen that are getting Division I looks. Nothing wrong with those kids. They're going to be great. But Gigi is something else entirely. Those are just the facts. When she's rolling the way that she was rolling, she did a little bit of everything on Friday. She crashed on Thursday. She crashed the boards. She played the passing lanes. She, of course, passed the ball. And then, of course, she scored. She does everything. I mean, you going to pick somebody else for Girls Player of the Year this year? I think not. I'm certain. I mean, she's definitely the girls' POI on my ballot. But I think what probably helped Ursuline even more than Gigi being Gigi, was everybody else stepping up. I mean, Sanaya Johnson did some really good things at the point guard position. Jasmine Butler does a tremendous job defending 1 through 5. Who else? Nia Murphy hit a couple of big shots for them. Catherine Lang was able to, handle the ball at some points for them. So when that Ursuline team, I mean, they only go about 7 deep, but when that seven deep is locked in, like the drummer, is in the pocket, the bass is following the drummer's lead, the rhythm guitar is rolling, the pianos is just like, floating. That's what Ursuline is, a well-tuned jazz band. And when they are playing their notes correctly, Ain't nothing more beautiful, man. It's a beautiful sound, unless you're the losing team. So, I mean, I I'm kind of sort of, I still think Caravel can get them, but Thursday was not a good opportunity to get them because, Speedy Wilson still hurt a little bit. I mean, it feels like she's probably just going to be, laboring along the rest of the season. And I don't know how far Caravel can get with her being like that, but they should be able to get to at least a Final Four. But hopefully she can, sort of like, get better as the, season winds down and the tournament winds down. But the biggest thing is that Caravel just needs to start making baskets because they just couldn't hit. They couldn't hit Delaware River with a rock on Thursday. They just couldn't hit anything. And I like a lot of teams in this state. I mean, Delaware is the one state where I can say that most of the good teams have the same exact problem. When the shots are not falling, everything goes to pot. That's a boys thing. That's a girls thing. That's a public school thing. That's a private school thing. That's a charter school thing. That's a VOTEC thing. We don't have a lot of dead-eye shooters here in the state of Delaware. We just don't. And that's not a knock on these kids at all, but I just, it's just something that happens when, when you're not scoring, who are you? And how can you get points, and how much more can you lock in on defense and try and turn teams over and get yourself some easier looks at the basket? That's what's going to be key for probably, I would say 95% of the teams in the boys and girls state tournament, because there's not one team that just has somebody that is absolutely just going to make every shot or make every shot when they count. It's just, that's just not how it works here. But, and that's not to say these kids aren't talented, but all the good teams in Delaware had the same problem. When the offense ain't working, it's a struggle. And they tend to, flip out, they tend to, lose their cool, lose their patience when things aren't, in sync like that. But it's hard. It's hard. One thing, one thing I do want to say is that we got to give more credit to these kids scoring 1,000 points. And I've noticed that DIAA is starting to, do little content things now, giving these kids their flowers for 1,000 points. And I'm not going to take any credit for it, but hey, they looked at the First State Hoops Report graphics and started doing that. No tea, no shade. It's just the facts. But I think it is time that we start, those of us who, those who are critical of kids, those of us who are in the media business, we're not judging kids out of spite. We're judging kids just off of the eye test, but we do have to be realistic about this. 1,000 points, no matter how you slice it, is doggone impressive. We have 9 kids and we're working on the 10th. Zamir Crawford from Dickinson, he is 11 points away. He played, Dickinson plays Christiana on Monday. So Monday will likely be the day that we have our 10th 1,000 point score. So when you think about this, let's say a kid plays 4 years of varsity or 3.5, because a lot of ninth grade, it's very rare in Delaware, or in a lot of states for that matter, that kids just start right away on varsity in 9th grade. That's just not how it works. So let's just say a kid gets elevated to varsity in 9th grade about halfway, 3/4 of the way through the season, and then plays the next 3 years. You're talking about anywhere between 60 and 70 games. 1,000 points. You divide that 1,000 by about 60, 70 games. You got to average between 14 and 16 points a game to get there. It ain't easy. It's not easy. And when these kids do it, no matter how they get there, it should be applauded, because that is important. Four digits, 4 of them things. For crying out loud, Seaford senior Amira Tingle, she just became Seaford's all-time leading scorer with 1,539 points. So that means she's averaging about 20 for the course of her career. That's impressive. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you play. If you're averaging 20 throughout your high school years, doggone it, you're good to a certain point. But you're good, period. And that deserves a lot of props. So, and that's why I'm really careful about my words here, because a lot of people around this state are very critical, but are not athletes. Yes, we all watch the game. We all observe. We all have seen enough basketball to know what's good, what's not. But a lot of people start to, sort of, insert themselves with a level of importance that they think they have that they really don't have. And I'm not one of those folks. I can tell y'all I wasn't really a good athlete. Okay. All right. Y'all ready for a quick story? This is going off the beaten path. But I promise it has a point. So I played football briefly for like on and off for like 2 or 3 years at Howard High. So my final year, my senior year, 1998, we finished 5-5. We started season 4-2. Then we lost 3 in a row. We because this was when Middletown was a Division II, and Middletown had a bomb squad. Scott Martin, who went on to play baseball at Dell State and played in the minor leagues for a while. Unitas Todd, Brandon Brown. Who else was on that team? I can't remember. Somebody else, and a couple other names will come back to me eventually, probably after I finish recording, but whatever. But this Middletown team was an all-star team. They went on to win Division II that year. This was our homecoming game. I'll never forget. First play of the game, we get the kickoff. We get 1st and 10. I want to say at like what the 30, 25 to 30. Our quarterback at the time, Andrew Blackston, who is I think Black is still working with the law enforcement. I think so. So he pitches out to Richard Hammond, and everybody who's from the east side know Rick. So Drew pitches out to Rick, and Rick, I mean, we've run that play so many times through the wing tee. You figure Rick is just going to take the sideline. Nope, he stops, throws. Devin Jackson catches it for a touchdown. We go up 7-0. Baynard Stadium at the time was going absolutely crazy. We thought we were absolutely going to upset Middletown. They scored the next 42 points, y'all. That game was over after that halfback option. Okay, so we lost to Middletown. We absolutely get pounded by Archmere, who ended up losing to Middletown in the state championship game that year. No, wait. We lost to Hodson. We lost at Hodson like by 2 points, and then we got absolutely drilled by Archmere the next week. So our last game is at Dickinson. And I didn't play but maybe about 4 games in a total of about 15, 20 minutes. So I get in at defensive tackle, and Terrence Black was the defensive captain. He was like the quarterback of the defense. He played a weak side linebacker. So he says, Chris, I'm going to tap you on one hip. Whatever hip I tap you on, you go the other way. So I figure, this is, he's seen what Dickinson is running. He's thinking that we can stop. All right. So he taps me on my right hip. I'm lined up over the center. Center goes to my right. So naturally, I go left. And Dickinson had like a freshman quarterback, off of JV, might have been about 5'8", 135, 140 pounds. In high school, I was probably tipping 3 bills. So this kid has the fear of God in his eyes when he sees me coming. And I think I'm moving. I think I'm like, burning it. I'm like, I'm about to get a sack in my last game. This is going to be, this is about to be a breeze. Next thing you know, I felt like I got hit by a Mack truck. Boom! I go, boom, boom, boom. It was on the film. This was before, MP4s and all of that. We still had VHS back then. This was 1998, mind you. And I hit the ground 3 times. It was literally on the tape. I hit the ground 3 times. And I don't know where I am. I get up, and the biggest Asian kid I'd ever seen in my life. I was like 5'8", 5'9", 290. This kid had to be about 5'11", 330. He's like, you good? I'm like, yep. He pats me on the helmet. I pat him on the helmet. We go back to our respective huddles, and everybody's laughing. I start laughing. And then, of course, the last Monday of film, they ran that back when I hit the ground 3 times. They must have ran that film back about 5 or 6 times. They just kept hitting rewind. So that was the end of my brief athletic career. But I knew I loved sports, and I was always going to be involved in sports one way or another. That's why I became a sports writer and a journalist. But I keep that in mind whenever I think I'm getting too critical of a kid, because I was not very good at football. I mean, I literally had a sack handed to me on a platter, and I couldn't be bothered to watch out for the pulling guard or the pulling tackle or whatever. Because I mean, I just saw a quarterback. I didn't see lineman, and I didn't see him even after he hit me. So just, these type of things, I keep in mind, try to keep not to be too critical of kids, because these are kids. These are young people. And we just talked about mental health the previous 2 weeks with Unlock the Light. So, back in 1998, we didn't have a Sean's House. We didn't have a SL24 foundation. A lot of kids who were my age became adults who struggled with that same thing, with anxiety, with depression, with coping mechanisms and all of that. So even those struggling with that as a kid gave me a lot of grace for kids now. I talk about that all the time because it's easy to just say, oh, what's wrong with these kids today? These Gen Zs, these alphas. It's easy to say. But our millennial behinds was cutting up too because we had unmet needs. It's really that simple. But yes, that's why I try to really be mindful of, how I discuss the game of basketball and discuss these athletes, because I don't want these kids to ever watch holding court and feel like I'm crapping on them, because that's not my intent. That'll never be my intent. My intent is to talk about the game as I see it, as I'm observing it through my 2 or 4 eyes. Where are my glasses? I need a new pair badly, but they still work. But yes, 2 eyes or 4 eyes. That's how I'm seeing the game. And it's no knock on anybody. There's no vendettas. There's no personal beefs with kids. Adults, it's a different matter. But, I just try to be mindful that, I was a kid once too. I was a kid, struggling with these same things that these kids struggle with now. And I was not nearly the athlete some of these kids are. They have pressures on them. So I just try to be mindful of that whenever I discuss things on holding court. Let me move this microphone back in front of my face. I think I got too wrapped up in the story that I got off center with camera. Sorry about that. But we're coming down the home stretch, people. And when this state tournament, I think this is going to be one of the best state tournaments ever, even though UD has pretty much, forced, Executive Director Baylor and the basketball committee to try and figure out where the heck most of these tournament games are going to be held, because not every gym, as nice and as cozy and as rowdy as some of these gyms are, they're not state tournament gyms. So I imagine that they're going to try to figure out a place to put the second round, the quarters. I think the semis and I know the championship game is still going to be at the bottom. I think the semis will still be there as well, but it's hard. But this is the home stretch. I hope you guys are ready for it, and I hope you guys are excited, because there's so much to like. We talked about this Thursday at Ursuline. Myself, Brad Myers, Andre Smith, Jason Winchell, Mike Lang. Can you pick a boys champion right now? A boys favorite? No. Can you pick a girls Final Four? No. I mean, there's 2 that'll obviously be there. I feel like Ursuline and Caravel are a given. You can probably put Sanford in there too. But that 4th team, that's going to be the question. Will St. E's mature in time? Can Padua find some offense? Will Smyrna jump up and bite somebody in the butt? These are things we all got to think about. And that's why this time of year is probably the best time of year, because everybody's playing for something. These kids, a few of these kids are seniors. They're playing for one more game. A lot of these kids are underclassmen. They're playing to prove a name, make a name for themselves, and prove themselves. And we get to witness it all, man. It's awesome. And I'm very much looking forward to it. So when I get the First State Hoops Report top 10 will be out later today, of course, after St. E, St. Mark's finished playing, and Sal's Odessa finished playing. And then, of course, 24 and more will be up on Monday. So then we'll get to some more games during the week. And then, of course, one more thing before I get up out of here. Last 2 years, I've been fortunate enough to do a First State Hoops Report holding court bracket reveal show, where I've had different teams and coaches on after the brackets were released to talk about where they were in the seeding. Do they like their seed? What are they looking forward to most about the state tournament? Want to run that back. So if you are interested in being on the holding court bracket reveal show, which will probably either be Thursday, February 21st, or Friday, February 22nd, come on through, man. Email address is FirstStateHoopsReport. That's all one word at gmail.com. My DMs are open on First State on Instagram at First State Hoops Report. Same thing for X at FS Hoops Report. Or if you're on Facebook, send us a Facebook message, Facebook.com/First State Hoops Report. Got so many ways to get in contact with us, man. I want to run that show back. I want to have a couple teams on. I want to have some coaches on. I may even bring Bruce and G back, as like, my analysts. So that could be a fun show. I mean, we had fun the last 2 years doing it. Let's make it 3 in a row. We'd very much love to have y'all. So if you're watching this and you see this, feel free to come on by. So thank y'all for watching this edition of Holding Court. Greatly appreciate your time as always. Contact information will be in the description below. My Cash App will be in the comments because, again, if you guys want to, drop a love offering for what I'm doing, I would greatly appreciate it because, getting to these games and editing this film and putting gas in my car, it all costs money. I have a job that I love greatly, but a little extra never hurt. So thank y'all for watching. Till next time we speak, and I see y'all in the gyms. Y'all take care of yourselves and each other.